However, Theo couldn't resist and tried to negotiate with Sejun, asking for 20 grilled fish instead. Sejun smiled knowingly because he knew Theo had taken the bait to seal the deal. Sejun offered 5 more grilled fish. Theo was now completely captivated by the stack of grilled fish in front of him. Sejun added to their agreement that besides the weekly payment, Theo could eat as much grilled fish as he wanted. When he was in the cave, Theo completely forgot about the percentage he would receive from selling the items and was solely focused on the abundance of grilled fish he could enjoy. Sejun asked for a piece of paper and wrote down the business contract. After completing the contract, Theo was shocked to realize that he had signed it because he was so excited. The paper with the contract disappeared and reappeared as a notification for Sejun. He had heard that a contract was one of the most important documents inside the tower and couldn't be destroyed. He wondered why the system made it difficult to erase or tamper with, but now he understood it was to make the contract effective and valid. Seeing the same notification about the contract, Theo was curious about the 4th clause of the special conditions. It stated that Theo must use the dialect from Granner, adding the word Nia after every sentence. Theo felt embarrassed speaking the dialect, but Sejun reassured him that he would understand, and the time came. Theo still had doubts about whether the plan would succeed. The contract also stated that if he couldn't sell the items, well, he could terminate the contract. Sejun reassured Theo and gave him the title of Sales Cat. Theo the Resourceful. Theo instantly fell in love with his new title, which actually favored Sejun, as it would make it easier for Sejun to manipulate Theo. Curious about what Theo would be selling, Sejun presented him with cherry tomatoes. Theo was doubtful about the item and asked Sejun how much he planned to sell them for. When Sejun mentioned the price, Theo was shocked and wondered who would buy cherry tomatoes at such a high price. Theo realized that selling the cherry tomatoes at such a price would lead to failure and termination of the contract. He asked Sejun how many cherry tomatoes he should bring for his first sale. Sejun responded that he should bring 1,000 of them. Sejun had also prepared 25 grilled fish as Theo's weekly payment. However, Sejun was curious about how Theo would carry all the cherry tomatoes. Theo replied that he would use his item called the bundle, which had preservation magic, expansion magic, and made the tomatoes lightweight. Theo could store many things inside the bundle and they would remain fresh for a long time. Sejun was amazed at how convenient the item was. After packing all the cherry tomatoes, Theo set off for work. A few days later, on the 38th floor of the tower, a group of warriors was hunting down a large monster. The team worked efficiently and managed to decapitate the monster. The group cheered for Kim Dong-shik, the leader of the Phoenix Guild. After conversing with the others, Dong-gik heard a rustle behind him and was surprised to see Theo. Asking if they wanted to see the items he was selling, people gathered around because they had never seen a wandering merchant who was a cat before. The others loved Theo's accent, which made him realize what Sejun had meant earlier when Theo presented the cherry tomatoes. People immediately lost interest and hoped that Theo would sell something like bread instead. Sarcastically, Theo laughed and told them to look at the stats of the cherry tomatoes. When the warriors saw the stats, they were still unimpressed. However, their attitude changed when they learned that eating the cherry tomatoes would help them lose 10 g of fat. They started discussing among themselves and all wanted to buy large quantities of the cherry tomatoes. While picking cherry tomatoes on his farm, Sejun wondered how Theo was doing, as he should have already contacted the hunters. Sejun believed that his items were unique with no negative side effects and delicious. He knew they would sell very well. Meanwhile, Theo couldn't believe that all the items he had brought had sold out. Sejun kept on observing the crops as it was already at 7%. The 1,000 carrot seeds that Sejun purchased and planted from the seed store, only 700 have sprouted. The 1,200 magic cherry tomato seeds Sejun planted after harvesting them from the plants, only 732 have sprouted and are growing. The germination rate of the corn and sweet potato seeds Sejun bought from the seed store and personally planted is already at 60 to 70%. The germination rate of the carrots and cherry tomatoes are also similar. Sejun hoped that the crops would sprout more. He assumed that the reason why Sejun's crops do not sprout that much is because of his farmer level, or that the land is not fertile because it is inside the cave. Now that they have Theo to earn the tower coin, Son is more motivated to harvest as many crops as possible. Sejun and the wife rabbit noticed fur play portrayed by the black rabbit to lure out the fishes. After throwing the torch up above, multiple fish leaped towards it, allowing for black rabbit to swiftly strike all of the fish in one go. Son was amazed with black rabbit's skills. He also noticed that black rabbits have gotten pretty good at hunting too. The black rabbit all of a sudden emits a light around him which makes him level up. He was so happy for the black rabbit, as he had only witnessed the other white rabbits leveling up. The black rabbit felt proud and was given a round of applause by the white rabbits. After hunting down the fish in the pond, Son suggested for them to take a break and drink some coffee. He then opened the tumbler that contained coffee sticks. He was so glad about Theo being scammed by Scarum, as they did not open the tumbler and not reveal the contents inside it. If Theo tried to sell the coffee to Sejun, he would have spent all of his money just to buy the coffee. Sejun thanked them for their ignorance because he is now able to obtain good quality stuff for free even though Sejun did not have any tools to boil water let alone ice cubes to make iced Americano. Being able to make a coffee inside the cave is luxury for Sejun already. With the help of poison honeybees, Honey Son was able to create honey Mariko, a combination of coffee powder dissolved in the cool cave's water mixed with honey. With one slurp of the drink it can relieve fatigue and hunger at the same time. Sei offered the drink to the adult rabbits but was displeased with the taste. While relaxing, Sejun noticed the poison honeybee headed towards a beehive. He realized that poison honeybee has moved in with Sejun and the others. All of a sudden a new quest showed up in front of Sejun asking for 10 magic cherry tomatoes. Sejun assumed that the tower manager realized of Sejun's importance after making a deal with Theo and kept on postponing the quests. After offering the magic cherry tomatoes, Sejun felt satisfied at first after receiving a compliment from the tower manager, but immediately realized that he acted like a pushover in an instant. In the merchant guild, Scarum and the other goblins are conversing with one another. Scarum was irritated since Theo has not returned yet after deceiving Theo by spending all of his money to buy useless items from Scarum. The goblin asked if Scarum was worried, but it was the opposite as Scarum had another plan for Theo. Scarum plans to inform Theo of a big opportunity and then lend him money to accomplish it. This would lead to Theo working hard to repay the loan he would borrow and making him scare him slave until death. The other goblins were amazed, aimed with Scum's devious plan. As Scarum felt thirsty, he checked his current merchant rankings. He was pleased that he was in the top 1000, but when he checked the merchants above him he was surprised at rank 982. Theo was in place, which infuriated Scarum. Meanwhile, Theo had finally returned. After selling the magical cherry tomatoes, he apologized to Sejun for taking time before meeting him. As he played for 4 days, after hearing his confession, Son realized that as soon as Theo reached the floor the items immediately sold out. With a sinister smile, Sejun threatened Theo that if he did not give him the details of the transaction he would likely face Sejun's scary side. After a few moments, Theo finished informing Sejun of the events of Theo's journey and gave the money earned from the cherry tomatoes. Sejun demoted Theo because of his actions and his title would be reinstated if Theo works hard and will raise the incentive to 5%. Theo decided to use their dialect always since it attracts customers. This decision made Sejun very happy since everyone would finally know his name. Theo was curious what Sejun meant, which Sejun explained that in each item they sell the farmer's name is displayed and will let people know that he cultivated the tomatoes. Theo became frightened as he realized one grave mistake. There's a system for a beginner wandering merchant that forcibly hides the origin of their goods. The policy is meant to prevent wandering merchants from stealing the suppliers of beginner merchants. Since Theo is still a beginner, which means that Sejun's name is covered in the items, Theo plans to never tell the secret to Sejun because he is scared of being demoted another time. He then asked for more magic cherry tomatoes so that he could sell more, but what really wanted is that he wishes for his level to increase so the restriction will be removed and the cultivator name will be revealed. Sejun became curious of Theo's action and assumed that he believed all of Sejun's words. Outside the tower, the hunters from the Phoenix Guild were having a pleasant conversation, taking their time. Dong Shik, the guild leader, received a message from his daughter asking him to buy more magical cherry tomatoes because they were effective. After reading the message, Dong Shik cried and a guild member asked what was wrong. Dong Shik explained that his daughter, who was always annoyed because of her diet, was now happy because she was losing weight. Dong Shik regretted only buying 20 pieces of magical cherry tomatoes. He didn't know his daughter would love them so much, so he left the rest for his team. Others were curious why girls were so obsessed with the cherry tomatoes. One guild member gave some cherry tomatoes to a girl he had a romantic involvement with and now they are dating. People were obsessed with the cherry tomatoes and would buy them in any quantity. Dong Shik stopped his team from arguing and called the rest of the guild to join them as they were about to proceed to the 38th floor. Coincidentally, the female members of the guild arrived and informed their leader that they were prepared to buy the magical cherry tomatoes. They phrased it as getting ready for an expedition. The women were physically prepared to deal with monsters, but their real intention was to buy more magical cherry tomatoes. They all agreed to the plan and headed to the 38th floor. Dong Shik, like everyone else, also wanted to obtain more magical cherry tomatoes for his daughter, no matter what. Theo was still on his task, but wondered when he would reach a TH000 tower. Coins, his magic item, could only store up to 1,500 pieces, so if Theo continued to sell at the current rate he would have to go back and forth more than 10 times. Theo reminded himself to focus on selling first as it was his priority. He was now looking for places where humans gathered. After some time the hunters finally found Theo, which made him curious. Theo asked if the hunters were looking for him and they agreed, explaining they had waited for 3 days because they didn't know when he would appear again as the hunters were about to buy the cherry to tomatoes Theo was carrying. He stopped them and informed them that the price had gone up. Dong Shik asked what the commotion was about, and a guild member explained that the prices had risen to 0.07 tower coins. Theo hesitated at first, thinking he had raised the price too much, but he was surprised to find out that people were still trying to buy the magical cherry tomatoes. In large quantities, the product sold out immediately. Dong Shik asked when Theo would be back for more tomatoes, and Theo replied that they should wait at that exact place as he would return in 10 days. DSH agreed to the condition as it was perfect for regrouping after a quest, and he hoped to purchase more magical cherry tomatoes soon. He then called out to the guild members, informing them to finish their business quickly as they would be heading to the spider monster's lair. Theo was happy to have found regular customers, which would help him achieve his goals sooner. A female hunter called out to him, saying he looked similar to the cat they knew. The female hunter introduced herself as Sua, and Theo corrected her, saying he was the only handsome cat there was. As Theo was about to leave, Sua offered him a treat. Theo tasted the food and immediately ate the whole thing. Sua offered more treats with different flavors, and when Theo asked if there were still more, Sua made an offer she would give him more treats if he took a photo with them, which he easily accepted. Sua was satisfied with the photo she took with Theo and planned to come back and meet him again soon. Meanwhile, inside the cave, Sejun was in the middle of giving Black Rabbit special swimming training. For safety reasons, Sejun temporarily blocked the hole where the fish came from. Even though he had checked on it a few times, he was still nervous. Sejun instructed Black Rabbit to swim without using the green onion. He had already seen great progress from Black Rabbit, compared to when the rabbit almost drowned after becoming excited and jumping into the water. Sejun was tired and wanted to eat a sweet snack. After playing in the water, he was surprised to see that he had already finished the bottle of sweet honey. He then realized that he hadn't seen the poisoned honey bee for some time and wondered if something had happened. While staring at the beehive, Sejun noticed that there was an increase in baby poison bees. To congratulate the poisoned honeybee, Sejun brought Flo as a gift, but the baby poison bees reacted with hostility as they were about to be attacked. Sejun instructed Black Rabbit not to fight the baby poison bees as they were not enemies. The attack from the baby bees stopped when the poisoned honey bee emerged from the beehive, which surprised Seon as she looked completely different and was now called the queen poisonous honeybee. Sejun doubted if he was facing the same honeybee he knew. The poison bee is a meat-eating creature that hunts with venom and fat, and he found this information from the books she had. She noticed the situation was under control and decided to leave it as it is for now. Sejun asked if the monster in front of him was really the cute poison honeybee he knew, and the queen bee confirmed. He was surprised by the sudden change after she ate nectar from Sejun's cave. Her body emitted a strong smell and she gained weight. This made the queen suspicious, but she soon understood why the queen's behavior had changed. The poison honeybee could now lay eggs, leading her to become independent. After meeting Sejun, the poison honeybee created a beehive inside the cave. Her appearance started to change and she became the queen poisonous bee. The poisonous queen bee was delighted to receive the gift that Sejun bought for her. When their queen hugged Sejun, the baby bees followed her example and hugged him too. A few days later, Sejun was awakened by the Black Rabbit. He had expected to have a good sleep during the blue moon. Sejun saw the carrot with blue moon energy and realized that he had previously thought the carrot wouldn't change because it was still small. Sejun understood why the white rabbits had woken him up to harvest the carrot. After harvesting it, the carrot was called an agility carrot, which would increase his agility stats by 0.05. Seon's skills and level increased. After harvesting the carrot, he noticed a change in his experience points and realized better crops would yield more points. Sejun gave the agility carrot to the white rabbits and thanked them. The adult white rabbit impressively cut the carrot into multiple pieces in one move. Sejun praised the white rabbit's skill, making the black rabbit jealous. Sejun noticed that after the blue moon, 5 magic cherry tomatoes had turned blue, and he offered them to the tower manager for the quest. He then asked if he could receive another skill reward for completing the quest. He became curious when the tower manager responded that she would have to think about it and give it to him later. Sejun heard Theo's voice and was asked to tell the bees not to attack Theo. He remembered Theo wasn't present when the baby bees were born, so they might have seen him as an enemy. After Sejun saved Theo from the baby bees, Theo thanked him and called him brother. Sejun corrected him, stating that Theo was his employee. While holding his face, Sejun praised Theo for bringing more tower coins and increased his incentive, but what Theo really wanted was to be sales cat Theo and not just an employee. Theo realized it was difficult to earn a new title. After hearing Sejun's explanations, Sejun was grateful to the tower manager for the information and planned to give her a blue moon crop. Next time, Sejun asked Theo what he was eating, and Theo said churu, which he got from a human. Things entered the tower in 2 ways, vanishing like how Seon entered, or through awakened hunters bringing items. Hunters could bring 1 kilogram of items from outside but had no restrictions when leaving. Sejun wondered why someone would bring churu just to meet a cat and had a new business idea. Theo noticed Sejun's menacing look and asked if he wanted to eat the churu. Sejun took the churu away from Theo and informed him that he would confiscate it. Since Theo had made a deal to obtain the churu, Sejun explained the special conditions of the contract which required Theo to only have clients approved by Sejun. This meant that Theo had breached the contract. Theo was horrified to learn about the special conditions as it was the first time he had heard of them. Sejun calmed Theo down and told him not to be disappointed. Sejun then asked for the names of the clients Theo had mentioned before. Sejun informed Theo that for 1 hour he would be the sales cat Theo if he performed well in future trades. He could be sales cat Theo for multiple hours. Sejun pampered Theo by placing him between his legs, feeding him churu and warming him by the bonfire. Theo was delighted with the treatment he was receiving and thought it must be part of being a sales cat. Sejun was about to serve the grilled fish that Theo had requested when he asked how Theo was able to reach the 38th floor without fighting any monsters. Theo explained that it was because of his wandering merchant license, for which he paid a hefty annual fee. The higher the level, the more money one needed to pay each year, but they would also receive benefits with a wandering merchant license. One could use various association-protected facilities. Not being attacked by monsters was one of the perks of being a wandering merchant. When asked if he could bring hunters with him, Theo informed Sejun that while the wandering merchant would not be attacked due to the license, the hunters accompanying the merchant would be attacked. The wandering merchants used an exclusive shortcut called the Merchant Passageway, but it was only accessible to those with the wandering merchant license. Theo told Sejun that without the Merchant Passageway it would be impossible to travel from the 38th floor to the cave in just 5 days. Sejun was then curious about the floor they were on, but was surprised when he was told that they were on the 99th floor of the tower. Sejun felt despair, as the information he had assumed was wrong. He tried to make sense of the situation, but it remained unchanged except for now knowing which floor they were on. Theo called out to Sejun and told him that his weekly pay had been reduced to ashes. Sejun prepared another batch of grilled fish while contemplating whether he should give up on leaving the tower, considering it had only been a few weeks since the hunters started climbing the 40th floor. Theo tried to boss Sejun around, instructing him to grill the fish properly and not let it burn, but he was surprised when he was told that his hour of being a sales cat had finished. Sejun noticed the crest on Theo while he was still sad about no longer being a sales cat. Sejun imagined a group of hunters lost inside the tower with no potions or supplies. Suddenly both Sejun and Theo appeared and informed the hunters that they were selling good items at a cheap price. The hunters immediately recognized Sejun in the mascot Theo, as they were known to appear in front of helpless hunters. They immediately asked to purchase the goods Sejun had brought and handed over all their money. Sejun stopped his imagination and asked Theo if it was possible for him to become a wandering merchant. Unfortunately for Sejun, Theo explained that only creatures born inside the tower could become wandering merchants. Sejun snapped completely as he no longer knew what to do and cursed out loud, catching the attention of everyone including the tower manager. Sejun tried to calm himself down, realizing that shouting wouldn't help his situation. He thought that he should have prepared to endure the moment he decided to enter the tower. Sejun now planned to live his life to the fullest outside of the tower. The items that Sejun cultivated had become popular and were being discussed by two individuals. One of them was Jenny, the sister of a member of the Phoenix Guild and the CEO of Easter Pharmaceutical. The other individual was Michael McLaren, the vice president of Gagel Food Company. Both Jenny and Michael continued to discuss the effects of the magical cherry tomato and how it affected their businesses. While Michael was not convinced about the item, Jenny explained to him how vital the magical cherry tomato was. She showed him the data results they had obtained, which surprised Jenny since they were able to obtain it in a short period of time. After asking about her real intentions, Jenny asked Michael to give her the previously unsuccessful tower farming project, which caught Michael off guard. He asked how she knew about it. Jenny hinted to Michael that he should try to regain his father's trust, who was the current president of Gagel. Rumors were circulating that the board director would elect the next chairman on behalf of the sick current chairman. Jenny asked Michael to reconsider and offered the magical cherry tomato, to which Michael happily agreed. This time, after eating the tomato, Michael complimented it and laughed hysterically. He then asked for more as he found it really appetizing. Sejun, who is completely stuck on the unreachable 99th floor of this tower, realizes that he has no way of getting transported back to beginner floors, so accepting his fate, he chooses to settle in this very cave and comes up with ideas to fix the inconveniences he has been facing these past months. Here, for starters, he plans to increase the daily necessities as the members of his team are growing as the days go by, and also decides to learn about his surrounding environment to ensure everyone's safety. So he asks Theo if there's any monsters nearby, since Theo is the only one who frequently goes outside. After confirming from Theo that there's still that Turing crimson giant bear from before who lives just down the block from here, Sen realizes that him going outside is Not a viable option yet, but settling down here is also not very optimal decision, so he turns to the queen poison bee and figures out how he is going to set foot outside. Since the queen bee is a everlasting poison bee spawner, those bees will be able to patrol the nearby area of the cave, meaning that in that way not only he can make it outside with the help of them but also can cultivate more crops. To initiate this plan, Son assigns Theo the wandering merchant cat with some task, promising him that if he accomplishes all of them, he will be able to become a sales cat. Accordingly, Theo goes to the 38th floor after a few days to his same old trading spot and discovers that many hunters have already set camp there to secure their share of the magical cherry tomatoes. It doesn't matter though, cause the more buyers the better for Mr. Nia here, so he jumps down to the camp and greets with the hunters, telling them that he has come with more magical tomatoes. Hearing that the wandering cat is here, one of the more arrogant hunters breaks the line carrying a heavy pouch of tower coins and offers all of them for the full stock of tomatoes. However, unlike the times before, Theo explains to everyone that he will not be selling his items for a fixed price but rather will be auctioning them to the highest payer. Although this proposition sounds extremely greedy because the magical tomatoes are in such high demand, everyone starts considering it. Back at the cave in the meantime, Sen proudly claims that it was his own genius auctioning idea and strongly believes that his plan to get tons of coins will succeed greatly. He also shows his trust on Theo regarding this matter by chilling around and states that he strongly believes that the mischievous cat will be able to accomplish the other important missions smoothly as well. The system menu suddenly appears, coming with the tower manager's message that he has asked for a glass of magical cherry tomato mixed with honey in exchange for a job-related skill. Of course, San shows his disinterest in this quest, but as the tower manager insists that the job-related skill will be greatly useful for him, he agrees to make her one and starts off the juice-making process using tomatoes and honey. Then he sends it to the tower manager, who this time reveals to us that she is just a lowly dragon with the typical protagonist obsession. Miss Dragon becomes mesmerized by the taste of the drink and quickly sends the special beekeeping job skill as a reward. This skill apparently lets the user basically become the owner of the bees, which means that Sen will now have full command over the poison bees. He thanks the tower manager for such a great gift, but at the same time he insults her, calling her a winged pig, ruining her mood entirely. Going back to the 38th floor, Theo rounds up all the hunters who, although showing their hesitancy at first because of their desperation to lose weight or make their loved ones lose weight, start bidding one after the other. However, none of the hunters manage to beat one guy, who doubles their bid amount, revealing himself to be Michael, the vice president of Gadel Pharmaceutical Company, who is widely known as the master of hunters. With 2 more rounds of auctions left, it is now certain that Mr. Money in the Bank is going to buy at all. Just as expected, Michael outbids everyone with his hard work and leaves everyone realizing that even when they are awakened they will always be broke compared to a multimillionaire. Even in the 3rd round, no one stands a chance as Michael buys all of Theo's magical cherry tomatoes for a total of 300 tower coins. While Michael and his team head back to the 1st floor with everything loaded up, the 2 Churu girls from before approach Theo again, and one of them, Sua, asks Theo for a picture again in exchange for a Churu, but unlike last time, Theo rejects her offer, being a proper sales cat, and tells her that if she gives him coffee, salt and pear instead of Churu, he will let her take a picture with him. With the 2 girls easily agreeing to his conditions, Theo reveals that this condition was originally an idea of Sejun as well, because he was the one who had wanted to have a taste of coffee and spices. So with this job done, Theo becomes excited as he can now spend more time on San's lap and happily let Sua take a picture with him. Not only that, he even lets both the girls feel his soft little paws, getting them overloaded with his cuteness. And now that this mission is complete, Theo reveals that he has only one mission left, so he initiates it by approaching Sua, who seems to be busy uploading the picture she just took on Instagram, and first asking her whether she is from the Republic of South Korea. After confirming that she is, he tells her that he will be needing her help specifically. On the other hand, the poison bees are happily pollinating the flowers, while the lazy farmer Sejun is lazing around and meditating. He gets happy as he suddenly gets tons of notifications from the system board stating that his beekeeping skills are leveling up. He explains to us that the queen bee has started spawning again, and because of that the bee population has begun to increase, making it even easier for him to level up his beekeeping skill. Because of the increase in level, the system has now allowed him to upgrade his beehive possessions from 1 to 2, which means more honey for everyone. With everything blooming, San celebrates with the rabbits by treating them to agility carrots, which not only increase agility but also break fat and improve vision like the cherry tomato, which also means that it will become another reliable income source. So he starts harvesting more carrots, when suddenly the system announces that he has reached level 10. as a farmer and assigns him an ascension job quest that will allow him to unlock new class traits. According to what Sejun has heard previously, normal hunters receive combat-related missions as part of their ascension quests, but since he is the only farmer in this tower, his quest is surely different from others, and as he accepts the quest he gets tasked with expanding his farming area to 50 square m, a relatively easy task. After completing the quest in the blink of an eye, San jumps to level 11. And also acquires 10 tower coins as a reward. Additionally, he also acquires one job trait which allows him to get experience points every time he creates 1 square of a crop field. As the quest is successfully done, everyone starts heading to their homes to take a good long break when suddenly Mama and Papa Rabbit lock the door on the kids, leaving them in the open field with Sejun for no reason. Sejun doesn't understand why is this phenomenon happening again, and realizes that Mama and Papa Rabbit must have done so in order to help these children in their adult bodies to become independent, but Sejun also understands that it is too late for all of them to dig their own homes, so for tonight he allows them to sleep with him and takes a good night rest. On the other side, the hunter group leader Kim Dong-shik gets upset over the fact that he couldn't attain a single cherry tomato for his daughter and sulks alone. Sua approaches him along with Theo, who first confirms if the guy is the leader of the people who came from Korea. After confirming that the sly cat proposes to make a contract with Dong-shik, leaving everyone wondering what the mastermind behind the scenes is up to. Now Theo hands Dong-gik a contract letter that states that Dong-gik will have to send 50 million to the family of Part Son and tell them that Son is doing well, all in exchange for 50 tower coins and 200 magical cherry tomatoes. As Theo shows Dong-gik the tomatoes, he gets tears in his eyes, as he now can give them to his daughter and can be called the best dad by her. So he of course unhesitantly accepts the deal, but he can't help but wonder who this Park Sen even is and why can't he go out of the tower to meet with his family. However, Theo can't just tell him that San is stuck on the 9th floor as it is a top secret, so he goes with the answer that he is just running errands for S and doesn't know everything, which is not far from the truth. Theo also includes a lie saying that Sejun is from the 40th floor, making Dong-gik assume that since no one else has reached that floor yet, these magical tomatoes can probably be found there. Theo doesn't confirm his assumptions and only tells him that Sejun is a man full of secrets. Hearing all of this, Dong-gik gets agitated as he imagines Sejun as an overpowered solo hunter who doesn't belong to any guild and perhaps is the most talented man in the tower, but that is far from the truth, as the protagonist is just an NPC farmer. Being the leader of a guild, Dong-shul decides to be in touch with Theo so that he can get more leads on this supposed super talented hunter, hoping that one day he will be able to convince San to join his guild. With these hopes up, Dong-shik accepts the contract and promises Theo to return in 10 days with the good news. Back at the cave in 99th floor, the rabbit shows that they have already built their own personal huts and are fully ready to live on their own. Sejun commends all of them for their hard work but regrets the fact he himself doesn't have a house yet. In any case, he throws a housewarming party for the rabbits and raises a toast for the hard-working companions. He thanks everyone for their contribution to his farm, and judging the fact that the Mama Rabbit and Papa Rabbit are all touchy-touchy, he realizes more rabbits are soon to join his farm family. Like every other time, the system menu appears out of nowhere, notifying Sejun that the monthly seed store is now open, and this time it offers him 1 out of strawberry, potato, and lettuce seeds. Of course, seeing the lettuce, Sejun gets cravings for eating burgers. But because he has no source of meat excluding the rabbits, he passes on the lettuce seeds and chooses to have potatoes as they are the best source of carbohydrates. After almost getting crushed by a giant bag of potatoes, San begins dreaming of steaming and boiling these potatoes to make pancakes out of them, and everyone gets super excited over his food enthusiasm, but he decides to rest for today and encourages everyone to plant all of these potatoes the very next day. Meanwhile, Theo goes back to his home, the Central Merchants District, without informing Sejun, and finds himself negotiating with a shopkeeper for a mere frying pan. After successfully buying his first item without getting scammed, he gets proud of himself and thanks his personal tutor Sejun for teaching him how to hustle like a true Asian. While walking down the streets proudly, the cat runs into his good old scammer friend Scarum, who looks to be in the middle of scamming another poor cat like him, and since Theo doesn't want anyone else to get into the trouble has been in thanks to Scarum, he confronts the sly goblin, telling him to put a stop to his foolish antics as he calls out Scam. Scam first acts as if he is an old friend of Theo and offers him some nice food, acting like a nice guy. However, Theo knows that Scarum is surely up to no good again, so he tells Scam to stop acting like they are close to each other and makes it clear to the other beginner merchant that Scam here is a complete fraud. Scarum claims that he only offered Theo great items at an affordable price just because he pied him, but that is obviously a lie, so Theo again tells the beginner merchant not to fall for it and reveals to him that the item Scarum just gave him is just an ordinary tool from the outside world and doesn't have any magic inside it. Scarum of course tries to get out this situation, but Theo keeps accusing him and even calls the guards, saying that Scarum here is a fraud who is in the middle of deceiving a beginner merchant, as Scarum starts running away from the approaching guards. Theo gets relieved as he has successfully saved a fellow beginner merchant, and after making sure that he is all right he takes his leave from there, but the beginner merchant reveals to us that he is not a merchant at all but an undercover cop named Agent Zirith who was in the middle of arresting Scarum for fraudulent activity. Zirith calls his subordinates and scolds them for not seeing this coming beforehand, telling them to send him 100 letters of apology as their punishment. To give context, Zirith and his police force has been lately receiving a number of reports about a fraudulent merchant, and after a long time he was able to track down to that fraud goblin Scarum. However, because of Theo's interference today his chance of an on-the-spot arrest has failed, so he will have to revise his plan again and decides to look into Theo's files to find out how he is connected to Scarum. Sejun shows the rabbits the technique to cut the potatoes, and as they accordingly cut them into 4 equal slices he instructs them to wet the soil and put the cut section down. With this technique Sejun easily plants 400 potato seeds using only 100 potatoes. Of course he is not a professional farmer, so most of his experience comes from watching YouTube, and now that he has done planting potatoes he decides to dig some sweet potatoes, but before doing so he reminds the rabbits that they will have to remove the sweet potato vines, as those vines will be used to make sweet potatoes again. The rabbits accordingly do all the work for the lazy protagonist.